Critical Blast, where pop culture gets blasted.
And good evening, everybody. I am RJ Carter, Senior Managing Editor here at CriticalBlast.com. Welcome to the show. We're broadcasting again from the Critical Blast Caverns, full of nothing but concrete and a banner. So, banner, not a mirror, RJ. Figure it out. You've got to twist your brain around this screen. I've only been doing this for 2 years, so I'm not quite up to speed on how the optics work on it yet. We are going to talk crowdfunded comics yet again, and tonight we are proud and privileged to have with us the man called Kemosabe to talk about the company men. Kemosabe, how are you tonight?
I'm well, thanks, mate. G'day, everyone. I am the man called Kemosabe, the man with the plan from the land down under, and thanks so much for having me on your show.
Whatever you said. Yeah. No, I followed it, but that was that's a well-planned introduction there. So my first question I want to ask you, is first of all, why comic books?
Because they're the best storytelling art form available. They've got the visuals of movies. They've got the written side of prose and text. There's nothing else that marries the two quite so well. There's some stuff you can do in a movie that you can't do in a comic book, and there's some stuff you can do in a novel you can't do in a comic book. But neither movies nor novels can do just about anything comic books can. Comic books are like this. You think about Venn diagrams. They do everything. They do it all. I learned to read from comic books growing up, old black and white digest size reprints of Justice League and Batman. My first comic I ever read was the Justice League getting taken out by the Shadow Thief of all people, and he kept belittling the Atom, saying, "Well, all you can do is shrink. You're useless." This is back in 1980 something. It's probably from the late 70s. It looks like it would have had Neil Adams art or something like that. And then Atom was, of course, the one that was able to thwart him by condensing all of his mass down, and because he's so dense and so much mass, he's able to ride on light photons and knock Shadow Thief out. I mean, I was like 4 or 5 reading this comic going, this is just blowing my mind, all these characters, all the colors. I fell in love with it that day, and I've never stopped. It's my first and truest love.
Yeah, that strikes a chord in me. I was reading comics at 4 and 5 as well. In fact, I was 6 years old in first grade, and nobody knew I could read, and I didn't tell anybody because I think everybody could.
Yes.
But it was off of the comic books that I would pick up at my barbershop. I was magazine rack, and he'd say, "Yeah, take it home with you," because I didn't want to leave. I wasn't done with the story yet. But yeah, you're right. Scott McCloud addresses that whole fact that how comic books, being the blending of words and images that they are, they're the only medium out there that activates both sides of the brain at the same time. Because you've got to, the one side's working with the words and the other side's absorbing the art and making something out of it. Nothing else does that. Everything else is either spoon-fed to you or making you work overly hard at it, I guess.
Which probably you can see why multimedia text, stuff that has flashing lights and text and moving images and colors, that's why they're so effective. They say that if you've got like a trailer, people engage with your product by 70% more or something like that. I can see very much how both sides of the brain would be engaged with that sort of media, but comics did it first, and comics does it better. I can't think of anything purer or more important to me than that storytelling form.
And especially when you get somebody who knows how to take advantage of that aspect of it. I mean, a lot of people, it's sequential art. And you'll just get here's the scene, here's the next scene, here's the next scene. Worst of all, you get somebody who's writing like Tom King, and it's like head. But
that used to be a thing. It used to be like maybe one page. Someone like Robert Kirkman in Invincible, he'd do it almost as a joke. They weren't supposed to take this, like 1984 has become the blueprint for society. You weren't supposed to take that page out of Robin Kirkman's work or Bendis's work and make that the blueprint by which you plan and execute all your comics. I got to say, pretty much every review I do comic book reviews, indie comic reviews on my YouTube channel, Kemosabe Returns. Almost every single one, I'll have a page from a Bendis comic where it's just panels repeated or speech balloon, all the way down. Those new ones with the Legion of Superheroes. Have you seen those? It's like 14, 15 speech balloons on the one page.
Oh,
visual overload.
Superheroes? Yeah, I mean, I've read in action. I mean, Superman in action comics, not Superman in action comics, which is what they've become. Yeah, where he brings in Brainiac 5 from the Legion of Superheroes. all the way from the 31st century where the Legion of Superheroes is, because, I'm a member of the Legion of Superheroes. Have I said Legion of Superheroes? He only did it 7 times on that one page. Yeah. It's like he's getting paid by the word. And I know that Bendis is making 4 figures a page for a rate. Wow. So it's like,
that's insane.
It is absolutely insane.
I charge a quarter of that. So if anybody wants their book written, and you've seen my reviews and you know that I can tell a good story, feel free to hit me up. I'm working on a few other projects right now, but I got space. I got time in my schedule. It's all good.
Did you put up that page, or did you see that page that was this beautiful profile image of Ultraman?
Ultraman, yep.
And just balloons down the middle.
Shoot himself in the foot, self-sabotage. You've got this excellent artwork here of a character that doesn't get enough page time as it is. Like, I loved Morrison's Earth 2. He reimagined the crime syndicate in a way that I didn't think possible. And I go back to that book frequently. It's probably one of my more commonly read graphic novels. And to have Ultraman there and to cover him up with all those narration boxes shows a complete... Did he never know how to write a story, or has he gotten worse? I'm sure he just worked with some really good artists. Someone like... Who worked with him on Powers? Brian Michael Oeming? Is that how you say? Yeah. He's a masterful storyteller, panel to panel, page to page. Bendis, I think he just got lucky, and he's just like Mark Bagley on Amazing Ultimate Spider-Man. I mean, he's drawing Spider-Man for 20 years. This, in my opinion, Bagley's the ultimate Spider-Man artist. I don't see anybody, even McFarlane, nobody approaches him to me, and people can disagree, and that's cool because your eyes like what they like, and I'm not going to get into a fight over it, but I like, so he worked with Bagley on Spider-Man. He did all the heavy lifting for him. He worked with Oeming on Powers. That guy set the mood. And the more I look at it, the more I realize he's just had a really good run on artists.
He may have also been reined in by some of them too. It's like, well, I've got the script, but you know what? Artistically, I'm going to fix it. Or either that, or Bendis has just gotten to the point where he's like, I really want to write a novel. You're writing a comic book. Okay, fine. Screw you. I'm writing a novel.
Yeah. He'd be better off just writing a novel and releasing it on Amazon or something. Get it on Unlimited and you're set.
Absolutely. But you're not writing a novel. You are writing a comic book.
Yeah.
We've got the link to that for the sign up below. You haven't launched yet. You have a date in mind?
February. I'm not sure exactly what day. I'm waiting for the very last few pages of art in my hand because a big selling point for me was that all the art's going to be complete before I go live on the campaign. So I've only got maybe between 5 and 10 pages left. And I just want people to know, I want to be able to hold up the last page of art and say, this is the last page of art for the company Men Dead, White and Blue. The book is complete. Yes, it's got to be colored. Yes, it's got to be lettered. But I mean, that's all 60 pages drawn before you've even given me a cent.
Yeah, that's all the heavy lifting.
Yeah. And that's the big part of the job. Absolutely. And I want people to be, because I'm a new creator. They don't know me. They might have seen my reviews. It might be one of 200 people who's watched my reviews. They don't know me. I'm asking them a big ask to give me their money. So I want to be able to say, here it is. Here's the artwork done. You're going to get it in record time. All we've got to do is get it colored and lettered, get the digital version put together, get it printed. Distribution centers handling the distribution. It's not coming to me. I'm not doing it, so I can't screw that up. Like, you're going to get your book in an efficient manner, in a cost-efficient time. You're going to love it. You come back for the second and third. You're going to come back for everything else that I write, because I've got more franchises than I've got years left in my life.
Where's your distribution center at? Are you printing outside of Australia and distributing outside of Australia?
Yes. Yeah. At this point, I'm splitting it between 2 distribution companies. But I want to finalize that a little bit more before I go throwing names out there. But there's 2 reliable companies that have given me really good prices that I'd like to go with on that.
All right. We'll talk later. We'll talk off stream about that, because otherwise I'll chew up the next 30 minutes. But so launching in February, everybody watch Kemosabe's tweets. When his tweets are 20 minutes apart, that means that it's going to be like in the first half of February. When you get down to 10 minutes apart, you'll know that it's time to go over there and start putting. Yeah. If you haven't followed American politics, you have no idea what I'm talking about right now. But the conspiracy theories are running rampant today.
Absolutely. And something else about signing up, reasons to do it. If you sign up, you go into the draw to win one of 10 original art pages from the book. So the artist has made 10 pages available to me at no cost to myself, just because he believes in the campaign, he believes in the project. Those pages are going to be raffled off to 10 people who have signed up for the book and backed the book, and they're going to get it sent at my expense anywhere in the world. Doesn't matter where they are, they're getting an original page of Company Man sent to them if they're one of the 10 people that wins the raffle. On top of that, if you sign up, you also get access to a limited variant cover. So you've got 2 rewards there. The only way to get this variant cover is to sign up ahead of time. It's by a big name CG artist. Until I have the art in hand, I don't really want to say who it is, but it's someone you all know. I'll use your boy Zach tactic. It's somebody you know, it's somebody you like.
All right.
It's the name. If I said it, everybody would go, oh yeah, he's a superstar. Yeah.
Okay. Well, here I have added my email address to the list now. So
thank you.
I'm in there. We'll see how far I go after this. So Dead, White, and Blue. What's this mean? Who are the company? Because when in America, when you think somebody works for the company or they're a company man, you think CIA.
Exactly.
And that's what I'm guessing you're kind of insinuating here. I have not read all the stuff that's on here because if I go in knowing all the answers, I don't have the questions.
Sure. That's the way to do it. Now, it's definitely, I put together a video a little while ago on my channel, and it was about 20 minutes long, and it explains my thought processes, the inspiration, why I'm doing what I'm doing, how I'm doing that, why I decided these particular characters, this particular story. I think this is probably the most visually marketable story. But the name Company Man is definitely a bit of a play on words because you've got the 2 meanings there. The company, aka the CIA. I think it's a very well-known American thing that they referred to as the company. So these guys work for the company. They do work for the CIA. That's part of the story. But also the idea that a company man, or like a salary man, somebody who's slavishly loyal to the company, that's put into, just jeopardized here. These guys are mercenaries. They hired CIA assets. Because they investigate a terrorist plot that they're told not to, they're actually burned by the CIA. They're actually kicked out of the CIA and on their own. Oh. And so their loyalty to the company is in question. They are no longer company men in terms of loyalty and no longer company men in terms of working for the CIA, because after doing a bit of poking around, they end up in a compromising situation, and the CIA just puts out a declaration saying, we don't know these guys. They don't work for us, never heard of them before. If they say they're working for us, if they say they've got any sort of authority, they don't. Any badges, anything they have, ignore it. You do what you want to them. They've got no value to us whatsoever. So now the stakes are even higher. Not only do they have to stop an imminent terrorist attack, one that would draw America into yet another Middle Eastern theater war. And at the moment in this story, they're already participating in several. They don't have the resources or manpower for another one. So
there's not much Middle East left.
Sorry?
There's not much Middle East left. I mean, pretty much the entire territory is,
That's right. And because things are so iffy, I have gone into the whole imagination concept. If you war gamers would be familiar with that, yes. An imaginary nation. DC Marvel does a lot of it. Dr. Doom comes from an imaginary nation. Count Vertigo is, I believe, the counter king of an imaginary nation. So there's a lot of that sort of stuff there. Because if I put it in a particular place, I've always felt it sort of can be seen as in bad taste. If there's people in that place, they're doing bad things. We're not saying all people from that place are bad. It's a can of worms you don't even need. I can call it Bafghanistan and just sidestep that altogether. My names are a little bit more original than Bafghanistan, I assure you. So these guys don't want to get drawn into the war, but at the same time, if they don't prove that this terrorist cell exists and this threat is real, they won't be able to clear their name and get back in with the company. So even if they don't want to return to working for the CIA, they don't want to spend the rest of their days looking over their shoulder thinking they're getting by a CIA hit squad. So there's big stakes for these guys. It's definitely life and death. James Scott Bell talks about needing death as stakes in a story, whether it's social death, whether it's like your employment death, whether it's your moral death, whether it's a physical death, you need some sort of death. These guys are risking professional death. They're risking the death of their perception of how they're perceived by the world, and they're risking physical death. So there's high stakes in this book. This is the 60-page book, full color. It's the first of 3 that make up the first arc, which is Company Men Dead, White, and Blue. So this is Company Men Dead, White, and Blue, issue 1. There's 2 more 60-page books that will come after this that will make up the full Dead, White, and Blue story. It was 180 pages of art. It's 220 script pages. So I just couldn't ship a 180-page book from Australia. The cost would be, and it'd take me another 2 years before I have all the art together. So by that time, who knows where the indie crowdfunding game is going to be. I didn't want to risk it. I wanted to get out and make a splash and be seen and prove that I can deliver a product.
Sure. You can do the graphic novel, when the third book comes out. It's like, hey, you can get the 3rd issue floppy, or you can buy the entire graphic novel right now.
With a brand new cover by, I could find some big name and sling some money their way and get a brand new cover and really pull people in that way. Yeah, so Herrenberg's talking about some of those made-up nations you get in DC, Markovia, Bialia, Kandak.
Kandak, what was it? Karak was the big one during the Iraq War.
Yep.
In one of my destroyer novels that I did, the Remo Williams stuff, I threw him in Kazakhstan, which was basically I just look up Arab curse words and I throw Stan on the end of it and I see who gets it.
Yeah, that's an efficient method.
But so these are burned CIA assets, but they're also metahumans.
Yes, they're all empowered.
Very reluctant, I would think, for the CIA to actually let them go, given what they can do.
Yeah, and there's even a line there where Boss says to Jura, "You're $100 million asset. Like we don't want to lose you." She's saying to him, "You have to go and solve this. You have to clear your name because I want you back working for me. But you've been burned, and I can't touch you. You're on your own. I trust that you can handle this. If I didn't think you could handle it, I wouldn't have made you the leader of the team. Go handle it. Come back to me when it's sorted, and we'll get back to work." He's not happy with that response, but he understands it.
So is it the team of 4 that we're looking at here in this picture, or are there?
There's 5 field agents and 1 leader. I could share a cover if you wanted to do a screen share with the cover so we can see the art.
Have you shared the cover already, and I'm just not seeing it, or?
Well, that's the cover artwork there. It's just maybe you're not seeing the whole thing.
Oh yeah, it's been truncated to the cinematic profile.
All right, just give me a sec to share this. Share screen. There we go. All right, you might be able to see that now.
There we go.
Fantastic. So that's the whole team there. You've got the 5 metahuman field agents, and the female character, she's called the Boss. She's their handler. They report directly to her. She reports directly to the CIA director, and that person reports directly to the president. So there's a very short chain of command there.
That's very cool. And do they have it's very 90s too, because you've got the big guy, you've got the guy on fire, you've got the telekinetic person with purple energy waves. Was that intentional to go that way, or did you just kind of say, "Hey, I want a guy to do this, I need a guy to do that"?
I talk about this more in the video that I've got up on my page, on my YouTube channel. It happened almost accidentally. And you said you wrote novels, so you might have experienced this phenomena before. That I've written novels too. I got half a dozen of a series that I want to start putting out in the near future, but I just want to get this locked down first. Once I'm known for this, I can start sort of taking a sidestep into that other revenue stream. When you start writing, sometimes the characters just do what they want to do. You can have an outline and they just, you're typing saying, okay, character A will literally do this thing. And then as your fingers type and as they type, that character does something different. It's like, that's not what I wanted you to do. That's not what I planned. But it's better than what I planned. And it's thrown a real wrench into the works, but I can't not do it. You can't not capitalize on the muse when she turns up. So very much when I was writing this book, I've got the first couple of pages I'm happy to share in a minute. The first scene where Jura assassinates a dictator in an African nation using his ice powers. After that, he's come into my head fully formed. And every time a character joins the story, they just come into my head fully formed, their appearance, their name, their powers, sort of the limitations on their powers, a little bit of backstory. I don't know how common that is for other authors and creators. I don't know if that happens to a lot of people. I do know that very often a creation can take on its own life and that people can arrive in your head, places can arrive in your head ready to go. That's how it was for me. This is very easy to write because every character just turned up and said, "G'day, I'm here. Let's get to work."
Yeah, that's the best kind, because I've had it happen both ways. You've got stories that are Athenas that just pop out fully formed from the brow. And then you've got the Galateas where you've got to like chip away and chip away and chip away and chip away and sculpt. But, it's beautiful in the end. Because I've always been curious about creating a superhero team, which is not something I did try it a long time ago, but it was not with experience. In that, do you create the individual characters and then say, okay, they're going to be on the team? Or do you think about ways that the team can interact with a set of powers to accomplish something, and then say, okay, I'm going to build backward from there so that I have characters that have these particular abilities to pull up what I want to do? I've
done it both ways because, like I said, this isn't my only franchise. I've got others. I've got another video up on my channel. It's about an hour long, hour 10. It's for the NaNoWriCo, National Comic Writing month. So the novel one, there's a comic one that happens, I think, in September, where you've got to write 180 pages of a comic within a month. And I was doing some prep for that, and I documented almost like a diary my prep for that event, and my thought processes and the creative processes and the brainstorming I did to come up with a team. In that instance, I used a bunch of archetypes. You got your brick, you got your controller. You could look at MMOs, you could look at other media, you could look at Dungeons and Dragons for those roles, ones that control, ones that strike, ones that do mass damage, ones that can lock down a bunch of enemies, ones that can take the damage, that sort of thing, ones that are more utilitarian, a teleporter, stuff like that. So I used a bunch of archetypes and made characters that filled those roles. Whereas with the company men, each character just came into my head as I needed another one in the story. Jura killed this African dictator. He gets told, you've got to go to Nigeria to pick up this guy who's got intel we need, meet another agent there and get to work. And Cinder, the guy that's the guy that's on fire there, he just turned up in my head ready to go. So Jura meets Cinder in Nigeria. They get the information they need from this bloke. They know they've got to stop another bloke they've got to capture another guy who's got intel coming into the country on a plane illegally. They force the plane to start to land, and the guy jumps out with a parachute. And Jura turns and he says to Abbott, the big guy with the mohawk, who I'd never seen before. He just turned up in my head and he said, Abbott, can you do, and even the name, he said, Abbott, can you get him? Can you grab him? And Abbott says, no, he's too far away. If I jumped and grabbed him, I'd cut him in half with my strength and speed and mass. I'd rip him in half. I can't possibly help you in this situation. So I just had a third character ready to go. And I thought, well, how can I get, because I hadn't planned it. I was just writing this all on the fly. Sometimes I pants things. Sometimes I plot them out to an extreme degree. You got little Post-it notes and cue cards everywhere. Yeah. And I said, well, how do I save a guy who's falling out of the sky? And I thought, I've got a teleporter. Gates turns up, says, it's all right, boss, I've got it. Here's the guy with the purple energy up the back. He's actually a teleporter. So, he's able to teleport that guy out of the sky, that sort of thing. So as I needed the characters, they appeared with the right powers to diffuse a situation. And then as I delved into them more in the interactions with each other, they end up developing distinct personalities. Abbott is very brash and crude. He's F this, F that. He's not very racially sensitive to the people that he's there to hit stuff and get paid. And so when ethical or moral or religious issues comes up, he's like, that's above my pay grade. Who do you want me to hurt? Gates, the teleporter, he's very mercenary. He just wants to get paid. He's the first one that's willing to cut out when things get bad. Cinder and Jura are best mates. Even though one's got firepower, one's got ice power, their personalities are very different. And they get along really well. And you can see them rely on each other more than everybody else. Everybody else is a little bit more of an outsider to their duo. They've been working together for a long, long time. You pick up very quickly that Jura's got a bit of a crush on Boss, and there was something happening there in the past, but now she's his superior and it's not quite appropriate. And she's got bigger aspirations than just a booty call. Like she wants to run it all. She wants to be the top dog, and she's not willing to compromise that for any man. So there's lots of personality conflicts that come into play that make the book really fun to read.
So Herrenberg is asking if you have any superpowered villains in this. Since they are a superpowered team, it would seem to be unfair if they were just up against a bunch of soldiers and terrorists of the human variety.
It would. There's a scene in the second book, the second story, Company Men Heart of Darkness, where the team is doing that, literally attacking a terrorist village. And the boss says, and one of the guys says to the boss, this is unfair, using metahuman agents against regular people. And she goes, yeah, well, you wanted a show, here's your show. I mean, what are they going to do? Why would they be scared of a bunch of goat farmers with AKs? But this is what you wanted to see. You want to see how efficient these guys are. Look at how they tear through these regular people. There's definitely metahuman enemies. In the first book, they fight a mercenary team that's hired to stop them. Both teams want to get a hold of this guy who's got information, because it's all about following leads. It's all about who knows what. It's all about red herrings. You get told this guy knows information about this terror cell because I've never heard of that, but you want to talk to that guy. So you get bounced around. You've got to work out who's lying, what favors they want. I can tell you that, but you've got to help me. There's no point torturing me because I'm willing to go to heaven for my beliefs. So you need to give me what I want. You need to help me with this situation. There's a lot of those side alleyways sort of plot points where they've got to go and deal with that problem and come back to get the information they want. So both teams want this guy that's got information, so naturally they come into conflict. The end of book one is a 10-page drawn-out, knockdown fight between the company men and this unnamed team of metahumans, because they're just guys that have been picked off the open market. It's just 5 people picked. Here, go grab this guy that we need, keep him alive. And then the company men turn up and they're like, well, hell, this is going to be a big fight. And there's cars and buses getting thrown at people, people's heads getting cut off, arms torn off, whole mountains being blown up. Ramjet, the super speedster, and this other guy who's got speed powers as well of a different sort, have this super speed battle that's happening simultaneous to everything else that's happening with the other characters. So they're operating dozens of panels per second, taunting and fighting and buttering against each other and using their powers to try and manipulate each other into getting a win. And that all happens within a second. At the same time, the company men are fighting over here, fighting these other guys. So that's how the first book ends. In the second book, the company men get caught in a compromising situation, and they get attacked by what's essentially the Avengers of this Middle Eastern country. So they've all got Middle Eastern costumes, Middle Eastern themes. The leader's called Scimitar. He's got like the curved blade. They've got like a genie, djinn character, that sort of thing. So there's definitely a Middle Eastern. I wouldn't call them villains. Like, they're the Avengers of their world. They're the Avengers of their country. As far as they know, they're the good guys, and he's the evil invading Americans. And let's be honest, the company men don't look like superheroes. They don't look like good guys. I mean, there's paramilitary gear. They've got guns. They've got pouches and knee pads and boots, and like, they don't have capes. They don't have big bright colors necessarily. It's all desert scarves and light jackets and that sort of thing. So Ramjet's the most traditional looking superhero, and that's part of his story. He's the newest. He's the rookie. He gets dropped off there expecting to be a hero to save lives, and the first thing he's told to do is to help torture this guy to get information, using his hand vibrating at super speed to push into this guy's atoms and cause him pain so they can get the information they need for the next part of the story. And he's like, this is not what I signed up for. I'm here to help people. Like, this is how we help people. We hurt a bad guy to stop worse guys from doing bad things to good people.
Yeah, I love when these superpowers, you have to find unique ways to use them. We've seen speedsters before. We know everything we do, and then sometimes you come up with I'm going to use it to torture you. Your teleporter. I don't know where I saw it, and I don't know if maybe I'm imagining that I saw it, or it's just coming to me now. But it was like the teleporter took a guy and teleported him 9.8 meters in the sky. Yeah. And just before he hits the ground, he teleports him 9.8 meters in the sky. So he's gaining velocity the whole time, 9.8 meters per second squared, until he finally just, it's like he just fell out of a plane, and he just stops you, like your street pizza.
Yeah.
Well, it must, forensics says that he fell out of the sky because he just, hit it with this impact, when really it was just, just this loop of
cycling through. It's funny. He's actually the assassin of the group. He's the one who does those sort of things, who finds a way to use his powers. Like, he'll teleport a bullet into someone's head and then back out again. And they've if you've got a bullet in your brain, you're gone. And then he teleports it back into his hand. There's no evidence. There's no forensic. I don't know what happened. You cut their head open and you see this mishmash mess inside their brain, and they've bled to death on the inside of their head. He'll teleport part of the brake line out of your car so you crash. He does all that sort of stuff you're talking about. Makes it all look like an accident. He could teleport part of your esophagus or breathing apparatus out of your body, and then you'd be choking to death. So he's definitely the most mercenary of them all, and he's the happiest to kill at a moment's notice. But they're all fairly bloodthirsty dudes. I've said before, they're bad guys brought together to do a good thing. They're not good they're not good guys. They're not heroes. They're not awful bloodthirsty villains who kill innocent people either, but they're somewhere in between, where if an innocent has to die for them to get their job done, they're willing to do that. And history was built on men that were like that, men that were able to make that sacrifice on someone else's behalf, as awful as it is.
Now, do you I'm hoping the answer is no. Because I like where the story is, and I want to just jump in and go forward. But do you spend much time on backstory, what they were doing before they became CIA recruits?
No, honestly, because these guys come to me fully forward with a vague idea of their personality. Jura's very efficient, Abbott's very crude, Ramjet's very naive, Cinder's very easygoing, but easy to rile up at the same time. Gates is very mercenary. That was sort of the extent of their personality. And then their greater personality was grown organically as they interacted with each other. I didn't sit down and think a lot about where they come beforehand. These guys have been working together for a while. They're all there as a team ready to go. They know each other. They know how to rely on each other. There's one point where one of them's in danger, and Jura says, Abbott, go up. Like, grab the dude and get out of here. Like, you can jump like the Hulk. He's like Ben Grimm level power. He said, just grab this dude and get him out of here or he's dead. Like, I know that I can count on you to do that. Keep him alive. There's points where he'll bring in Cinder to torture someone because he's got, his heat and he can burn the guy, or there's poppy fields, and he says, well, I'm going to get you to burn their poppy fields until they tell us what they want, stuff like that. So they know each other's powers. They know how to rely on each other. There's very little backstory. You come to know who they are by their interactions with each other.
Right. So have you done a comic before? I mean, I know you've written other things, but is this your first comic book?
Yeah, it is.
All right. Were you always planning to do a comic book at some time? And then crowdfunding came along, or was it more like, you saw crowdfunding and say, hey, everybody's doing this, I can finally do this thing? I mean, what's the chicken egg scenario here with creating comics and crowdfunding?
Yeah, crowdfunding made it possible. Before that, I just didn't think I had a chance. I remember being very, very young, and I had two original characters I'd made up that weren't that original at all because I was like 8, and I ripped off the scene from the Ninja Turtle movie where Casey Jones and Raphael have that fight in the park, the trench coat, and trips him over and all that sort of thing. And I just basically lifted that whole thing, and I started drawing it. And wow, drawing comics is hard. When you're a kid, you're the best drawer in your class or whatever. You're a big fish in a little pond, and then you start realizing sequential comics is really, really difficult. And I set myself a goal to be published, to be making comics by a certain age. And then one day I blinked, and I was twice that age that I promised myself I'd be published by, and I hadn't done a damn thing. So I've always written comics. I've always wanted to make comics, but I didn't. I plateaued early in my art. They say you got to spend 10,000 hours to get. I don't have that much time. I don't have 10,000 hours to get mediocre. If you're going to be working in comics, you've got to be good. Your art's got to be good. I'm a grown man now. I can afford to pay someone else to do the art for me, and I focus on the stuff that I really, really love, which is the storytelling. I didn't think I had a chance of making this comic. I was just going to draw it myself. In one of my videos, there was the process video. I talk about how I put the book together. You see some of my really rough thumbnails that I was doing, trying to break down the pages, convert what I had on the script onto the page. That in itself is a skill. That in itself is not an easy concept. You really got to know what you're talking about to be able to take words and direction and make that work on the page. And you've got to be able to draw the human body from not 360 degrees. How many degrees are in a sphere? Infinite. You've got to be able to draw the human body from every, and then the perspective. Forget about it. So I was just going to draw it myself and put it out there for free because I couldn't stand the idea of this story that I love not being seen by someone, not having somebody go, hey, that was cool, and then your boy did his thing, and then EVS did his thing, and then everybody was doing it. I'm like, these are just dudes at home on their mobile phones getting books made. Really, the biggest gatekeeper, the biggest hurdle to making comics is money. If you got money, you can make anything happen. You got money to draw whatever vanity project you've got going on, and because of the COVID, I was out of work, and the wife said to me, and she's working, she's guaranteed to be able to work no matter what sort of situations go on. And she said, look, we got the extra money. I know you want to make a writing career, and I know you want to make a go of it, and you've sold me on the benefits of crowdfunding. Have a go. Tell me what you need, and we'll make it happen. So she's financing this whole thing. She's been really, really supportive. I'm very lucky to be in a situation where she just says, okay, if that's what you need, here's the credit card, pay for it.
Yeah, and with the crowdfunding is like, if you don't make $1 million, which most people won't, you made your book. If you do make $1 million, you found your calling.
Yeah, that's right. I'd really like for this to pay for the next book. If this book, like whatever money I've sunk into this book, that's dead money. That's gone. I'm not trying to recoup those costs. Every cent I make over just fulfillment and stuff, anything that's left over after that's done, I'm going to seed straight into the next book. In fact, the second book will still be being worked on while the first book's funding. So first book go live in February. Sorry, Combat. One comic year's all I'm good for.
Yeah, I don't think she's going to finance all of it here. No. But speaking of that, what do you have a goal in mind when you launch in February? Are you going to go flexible? Are you going to go hard? It sounds like you're going to go flexible because the book's going to be done when you launch. So why not, do it?
No, I don't have a hard number in mind. There's a few people who've done this before whose brains I want to pick. I'd like to be getting up into the 5 figures. I'd be really surprised if I don't. Like, considering the quality of the artwork, the logo, the characters, how bombastic and colorful it all is, and the response I've got from people. People seem really, really enthused. It gets random people that I don't even know on Twitter are just constantly retweeting my work. Yeah, thanks, mate. See you next time. I'd be really surprised if it went live, 60 pages, full color, art's already done, and I don't manage to ping 10K. I don't manage to ping that 5 figures. I don't know. I haven't done any extensive demographic breakdowns of funding and that sort of thing, but I do know that boobs sell. I saw this Wizard of Oz samurai comic, and it was like $80,000 for all these nudie boob covers. I'm like, that dude's operating on another level. I need to just gender swap all these guys and put them in micro bikinis, I think.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm missing out.
that's what sells. I mean, we did our we're still doing the voting, by the way, on our best of 2020 with comics and writers and artists and such. And when we were showing them the last time around, Don Chin was in the chat. He's like, "I'm just seeing a bunch of boob books here." So I'm like, "Well, yeah, I guess maybe you found what gets a recommendation and what doesn't."
Yeah. It's a real look. I'm seriously considering, like I said, I've got more franchises than I've got years left in my life. I'm coming up to 40 this year. Let's say I get another 40, 50 years. That's a good run. That's a good innings. I got at least 50 more franchises of this quality, of this depth and complexity, written or planned to enough of a degree to be a workable project that I've been working on for years and years. I'm prolific. I'm getting more ideas than I can always. You must know. You're a writer. You must know. The ICs just come thick and fast. You're like, I don't have time to write that down. I've got to go pick the kids up from school. But you know, and you try and remount, or I talked about this in my process video. I try and capture the seed of the idea, the sensation of existing in that world for a second. Just 2 or 3 sentences, a little elevator pitch to myself to remind myself of how I felt when I first experienced that idea, and then hopefully I can get back to it and write from that point.
You know, you said you're 40. I just want to. I'm 53. So. Yeah. So you're still a kid to me here. Just Stan Lee was 45 years old when he invented Spider-Man. So you're never too, and you know that took off rather well for him. It's kind of a nice little project he had there. So yeah, absolutely. Too old to get things started rolling downhill with a good comic book process.
Sorry, what was that?
You're never too old to get things rolling downhill.
Oh yeah,
with a comic book project.
I heard somebody say that he had a list of, 6 scale says 40 more years. That's optimistic. I don't drink a lot, and I don't smoke, and I don't do drugs. I figure I got a good chance. I don't have a problem with anybody that does. Some of my best friends smoke weed, but it's just not for me. Somebody had a whole bunch of creatives that only took off when they sort of hit 39 years old, 40 years old. It seemed to be this real tipping point. Maybe they'd seen enough of life to know what they wanted to really do, and they make that big change up. And it's just stunning how many influential creators and artists really kicked off at 39 or 40 years old because they're just ready for that next phase. And that's where I am right now.
We're both old bastards, says Comics Mate. Yes, we are. I go on other shows and I'm like, I'm called Grandpa, and I'm like, wait a second, I have a 13-year-old son. I'm not ready for that word yet.
No, that's right. Now it's scary when you realize. Yeah, like at 40, I could easily have a 22-year-old kid.
Yeah.
Growing out of home, living, doing their own thing, having relations. They could be married with kids themselves. They could, that blows my mind. My kids are only sort of like 4 or 5 years old. Like we started off late.
Oh, stop. Yes. When you have a baby at 40, it's like, where did that come from? How did that happen? Well, obviously you're You've thought about all the numbers now. I mean, do you know what you're going? If you don't have the goal hard and fast in mind, do you know what the book price is going to be? And have you thought about what your add-on kind of deals are going to be? You're going to go the sticker route. You're going to go the button route, the pin-ups. Obviously, you've got some art pages that'll be part of this.
Yeah. So I've written out. I've got a plan for what I'd like to do. You got your typical book on its own, digital version, book on its own. Book with a poster. I've got 6 really great pin-up pieces of work that I've had put together for me over the last year or so from various artists that you'll know online. Again, people that you've heard of. I say the name, you're like, oh, wow, that's cool. You got that guy to do a poster. So I wanted like a poster pack. Definitely going to be some art pages. I'm not going to do the drawn in because the art's already going to be finished. I can't really turn around and ask my artist, hey, can you go back and erase some faces and put some people in there? Yeah. That seems to be really popular. I wouldn't have thought it was, but a lot of people I talk to say they really, really like that perk. And it's one of the more high-priced perks. That's definitely something we'd think about in the future. Like I said, book 2 is going to be worked on while book 1's funding. So I go live in February. Hopefully people trust me enough with their money to give me a shot. And while that's coming in, my own money or my wife's money is being sent to South America to pay this guy to start work on book 2. Like he'll finish book 1 this week. The next week he'll give me 5 more pages of the start of book 2. Like there's going to be absolutely no break there. We're just going to roll straight over into the next. We were looking at some other stuff because I've teamed up with Greg. I don't know if you've seen Gun Demon.
I have not seen Gun Demon, but I have heard of Gun Demon.
Yeah, right. So it's fantastic property that he's been working on for a while. He's got a really amazing art team, like some guys like ex-Top Cow, ex-Image type guys working on it. Really crisp pencils, really, really solid inks. And he approached me a while ago and said, look, I want to make something bigger than just a one-off book. I want to make a shared universe. I want to pull in quality properties, IPs that I see to create the shared universe to increase enthusiasm and get people on board for the whole line. So him and I have teamed up to merge our two universes together. So a lot of our shipping and goals and perks and that sort of stuff we're doing in tandem. So he's putting together like a Magic type battle card game. It's called Battlegate, with all these characters from Company Man and from Gun Demon. So there's stuff like that he's working on get some maquettes made by some artists. So there's going to be sculptors, statues, that sort of thing. Sorry, mate?
That idea of a card game, I have been pushing that and pushing that to people for a long time, because think about what there's so many campaigns out there, and we've started already to see crossover, not with characters but with talent. Like you'll see Preston Acevedo is going to do a painted cover for somebody, and they're like, oh, I know him from 11 projects, and that helps one project support another project. And I've always said somebody should do some sort of a Battlegate game, like you just said, with the collectible cards, where it's like, hey, we got the game. Here's our characters. Here's, I'll just use Magic the Gathering for a baseline to describe it. Here's the artifacts. Here's the enchantments. Here's the lands. And it's all, this based on this one thing. But then you have it as an open source where you say, okay, now this is how you build a character or an artifact or whatever, and you make it available to everyone. Who can, publish cards that, here's the back. You have to use the right, the same template back to make it part of the game. But imagine this, that, I've got, I'm launching Cyberfrog.
Yeah.
And if you buy in at a certain tier, I'm going to include the Cyberfrog booster pack for Battlegate, which will have, some Vespers and a Chelsin and whatever have you. When you open it up, and you throw that into your deck. Now you're playing Battlegate with somebody, and they're coming at you with the company men, and you throw a Cyberfrog at them. And they're like, where the hell did that come from?
Exactly right. It's yes. And that's exactly what we've done. Greg's an amazing networker. He's got huge vision. He's got a lot of contacts. I'm talking like Hollywood contacts, like people who are in music industries, who are in publishing industries, who are in video production, editing, that sort of thing. Like he knows a lot of people, and he's able to draw upon a wide range of skills and resources. So he's already lined up a half a dozen creators. Again, I don't want to speak out of school, but it's names of people whose campaigns you will have backed, people I'd be like, you're like, oh, that guy, he does the such and such comic. I love that comic. We're bringing in all these other characters and all these other properties to form booster decks, booster packs. Some people are prolific enough, they've got enough characters to make their own standalone deck, which you could then fight against a company man deck, or you can mix and match. You just might want Abbott. And there's, this synergy, like Boss gives a boost to all the company men because she's their logistics. She makes it cheaper to recruit them. She helps them move around the board, I guess you'd call it. I played Versus for years and years. I never played Magic, but I was big on Versus. I loved Versus. It's such a great system. If you ever come across that one, so a lot of that for me, the aesthetics of that is what I want to see. So you can mix and match from these different properties. You can have a Cyberfrog. You can have members of Graveyard and Shift. You can have members of Company Men. I mean, admittedly, we have to get those guys on board, but people maybe not John Malin and EVS, but other people you've heard of have signed on, and we're developing decks for them as we speak.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful. And people are just in the chat talking about figures. Action figures are expensive. I know a guy who does 3D figures for different Comicscape folk. He does them pretty much for cost. So, if you want to, 3D figures printed up him, I'll hook you up with him. You can work that out with him. He'll take care of you on that. I know we're working on getting one we published a book through Critical Blast called Bulletproof. And the author of that book is working with him to get his main character done up as a 3D figure, which we're looking to maybe crowdfund the second book. And the crowdfunded folks would get the book and the action figure. Just get things rolling along. Because publishing books is an expensive hobby more than it is an income.
It really is. And you've got to be at it. Like I was just on a stream with Michael Derrick of Abductables and Grayscale fame, and I said to him, he's blueprint of the fact that it's a marathon, not a sprint.
Yes.
You can't put out one book. I'm not expecting to make money on the company, man. I've sunk 5 figures into this. Like, I've paid for quality art, I've paid for top-notch colorists. I've got an amazing letterer who intrinsically understands the art of lettering, because nothing makes your book look worse than bad lettering. Like, you've got to know the conventions. There's so much inside baseball with lettering. You need someone who can do that. And that's Stephen Koch, SK, of he's Transhuman and Terra Olympus. He's published those books. He's published a dozen books. He's a real guru that people could really access more. He's a fellow Aussie. He's a real top bloke. So I've got this amazing team. I've sunk heaps of money into this book. I'm not necessarily expecting to make it back. I'd love to hit 50K and make all my money back, but I'm not counting on it. I'm counting on just covering the printing and distribution costs, and then anything I've got left over gets into the next book, because I know it's a marathon. Once I've got 3 books out, and then I've got the collection with a brand new cover, maybe I can hit up John Mayland and get a John Mayland cover, something like that. I feel like sometimes you've got to be a bit in the know to get some of those big name covers. I've DM'd a few people and said, look, I've got money. I can pay what you want me to pay. Can I get a cover? And you don't often hear back, even if they're too busy. They're like, oh, sorry, man, I'm flat chat. I can't fit you in. Fair enough. But I think maybe some pros don't know there's that little message waiting on top of Twitter.
Sure.
Sorry?
They'll have so many of them. I'm sure
that's right.
They're all blocked up. And
yeah.
I'm very fortunate that people respond to the messages that I leave with certain folk.
So hopefully I get all 3 together with a new cover, and that's where the money comes in. When it's a full story, people can pick it up, the whole thing, be ready to go and go, this is cool. I like this world. I like this character. And no sooner has that come out than I'm launching Company Men Book 2, Heart of Darkness. New members to the team, some swaps out, some of the same. New story. I've got 4 stories planned: Heart of Darkness, Cold War, and Insurgent. And there's also a side mini-series called Company Men Black, Black Ops, Black Site, and Black Bag, where Boss pulls together temporary one-off teams of individual metahumans to go and do jobs that even the company men can't do. It goes really, really gritty, really deep, really dirty, really dark, completely off the books. Nobody knows it's even happening. If you get caught, you're dead. That real Black Ops type stuff.
Like a Suicide Squad.
Yeah.
This sounds like you've really got your world building has been very thorough on this.
There's something I pride myself on. Not that I sit down and, some people, especially with the fantasy books these days, like world building is its own industry. There's people selling courses just on world building, and you got to have like a complex magic system with a set of rigid rules. That's, because if the magic system doesn't have rules, people spend ages. You see them on Twitter talking about their main character, their OC, who can do this and has this power. I don't sit down and do it deliberately. I let it happen organically, and I'm lucky enough that it tends to write itself and it all fits. If you can imagine trying to sweep a floor and it's covered in dust, and eventually, if you just keep at it, it all, you get the whole floor. If I keep at it, eventually this outline scheme that I don't even see, this subconscious structure or array that I've got in my head comes to the fore and it works. It's not always conscious. I don't know that I'm doing it. It just seems to happen, and everything clicks. And like anything, it's, this is what I want to read. I'm making the books I want to read. So it works for me. For some people, they're going to love it. I've seen people in other streams say, "Oh, I love seeing all the violence you're talking about. People getting their heads cut off and blown up, and explosions and big superhero action." Like I said, there's one scene where a dude just gets thrown through a mountain, the whole mountain explodes and takes out half the village. Some people want that. Other people want characters sitting down, drinking coffee, and talking about their feelings, which I can't promise you is going to happen in this book at all, ever.
I hope not. I've seen that somewhere before. Far too much of it. I saw 2 issues of the X-Men eating dinner. So that was a smorgasbord, apparently.
Nobody eats in this book at all. There's no eating.
Good.
There's maybe some dude in a bar having some drink in the background, having some alcohol. That's about it.
Well, it's been brought up in the chat that, once you get past your first fulfillment, things will, obviously there's like, okay, the guy has done a book and he's delivered it. Now I'm in on the second book, and I'll, pick up the first book if it's available as part of one of those tiers. And one of the things that, we talked a little bit about fulfillment, and I promised you we'd talk offline. I lied. Because if I talk to you offline, nobody else gets to hear about it.
Well, let me just jump in real quick, because when I said there's 2 companies I want to go with, someone to handle stateside and someone to handle rest of the world, your company was actually one of them, but I realized I hadn't talked to you about it. So I didn't want to say anything out loud. So we will definitely talk about it. You can talk about it now if you want, but we'll definitely talk about it afterwards, because the prices and the service that you talked to me about was second to none. I really can't fault it. And so I've been telling people real quietly, "Oh, Critical Blast, I'm going with Critical Blast." But then I realized, oh, I'm on his show and I haven't talked to him about it. I don't want to say I am and put him on the spot. But
we'll talk details on our one-on-one. We'll talk generalities with the crew here in case there's anybody out there in the chat who is thinking about doing a crowdfunded book and you're outside of the United States. Obviously, one of the biggest hurdles. Well, first of all, the United States is probably the largest market for buying comic books. It's just an American invention, so we like it.
To the point where before I talked to you and some other people about fulfillment, I was considering just fulfilling within the US, because if I was going to have to send from America to Australia and other places around the world, I couldn't afford it. I thought maybe I will only be able to fulfill in the US because that is where the primary market is. I could do that, maybe still come out ahead.
Exactly. But yeah, if you were going to fulfill it from Australia and send each one to an individual person, the shipping cost would kill you. And of course, it wouldn't kill you financially on the back end. It would kill you on the front end where you say, the book is X dollars and the shipping is X with a bunch of zeros after it dollars.
You're not wrong. It's shocking.
I mean, like, I love the book. I'm not going to pay the shipping.
I've done it myself. I've said, oh, fantastic, I'm going to buy this book. And then you see the shipping and it's literally more than the book costs. I got to bow out at that point.
Yeah.
That's money. I could get another page for that cost.
So that's what we do now is we work out a system where if you're going to crowdfund, talk to us first. We'll tell you what you can, set your shipping cost at, because what we'll do is we'll figure out what it's going to cost you to drop ship the entire thing, Critical Blast Logistics, which is our new arm of business. And then we will fulfill just inside the United States. So, if you're going to send to England and everybody else, that's still, you take care of that. But we will sell it, distribute it within the United States so that your ship cost will be pretty much in line with what everybody who's making them already in the United States is going to be. I
don't want to call you a liar, but when I saw the numbers you sent me, if I hadn't seen your reputation as a stand-up bloke online, I'd be like, this guy doesn't know what he's talking about because those numbers are almost too good to be true. I'm happy to shill for you right now. I was blown away by the numbers you were sending me.
I will be very transparent with everybody that we do business with. I bring the spreadsheet up. I'm like, look, this is what the post office charges. This is what the equipment charges. Here's what I'm making off of each one. I'm making money off the deal. And I even, say, and then we have to consider how much it's costing you to ship them to me. And then you amortize that across however many books that is, so that you get a per unit price. And who knows? I may, do the very first guy who's contracted with us is actually in the U.S. And I'm like, I'm not saving you any money doing it. And he's like, yeah, but I just don't want to do it.
Yes.
Fair enough. I may get to the point where I'm like saying, oh, I forgot something very, very crucial here. And it's costing me money now because that's already in my hands. I don't see it. I've run it through the eyes of several other people and like, why is nobody else doing this right now? Maybe I'll find out why. But I'll tell you, Kemosabe, as I've been thinking about it, you've seen what I want to do with the shipping. That's just phase one that I figured out here. Because I'm thinking, let's just say you sell 100 books. I do that because it's easy math.
Sure.
You're shipping 100 books to the U.S. for us to redistribute the book. Why don't you overprint and ship us 125? That's my first step. Because now if you go in demand and you sell more books, they're already here.
That's right.
So you don't have to ship another batch over, which may or may not, be difficult or costly, more costly than you want to be. I'm like, yeah, because then I could just say, oh, you got another one? Great. Just send me the, $10 or whatever it is for the shipping. I print a label out and we put everything in a bag, a board, seal it, put it in a Gemini mailer, seal that, slap a stamp on it, thinking possibly even of putting them in branded bags. I haven't given that a whole thought yet, but Sticker Mule is always telling us, hey, here's bags you can print up. I'm like, I've used them for Critical Blast before, but I could definitely see possibly saying, okay, well, you're going to ship me 100 books. I'll go ahead and order 100 the company men poly bags to put the Gemini mailer in when I mail it out so that when it arrives, people know what they got.
Yeah, that'd be memorable. Like people would see that in the mail. They'd get excited. They'll remember that feeling next time they're back. Like, man, I remember when company men turned up and the full color bag was there and I ripped it open. It's such a fantastic read. I'm going to get on this day one. And that's what you want, that big bump early on. Get you featured, get you trending, hit your goal as soon as possible.
And then, of course, the confidence that comes with the fact that the company we use to print the labels, because what you would do is you would have to send me, obviously, all the addresses from the people, the spreadsheet that Indiegogo will give you, which will include an email address. Well, guess what happens with that email address? They get the tracking number emailed to them saying, hey, your copy of the Company Men just had its label printed, and now you can track it every step of the way through the postal system till it's on your doorstep.
Imagine the anticipation. I've seen the amount of people I've seen say how grateful they are for those tracking numbers is phenomenal. I think it's the thing that makes a huge difference to people's feelings about the fulfillment of a campaign. And I've seen people literally complain when they don't get a tracking number. They're like, well, you're using this system. Why aren't I getting a tracking number? I want to know where it is. I want that confidence of knowing it's on the way. So that's a huge feather in your cap.
Well, guess what? If you're sending it from outside the United States direct to market, that tracking number gets lost. I mean, it basically says, yes, it left, London and went to Worcester and then got on a ship and now it's in the U.S.
Good luck.
Okay, fingers crossed from this point forward.
Yeah.
But that's, that's exciting to me. And then it really blew up in my head because I'm thinking, what happens when I get multiple clients? If I've got you and I'm fulfilling the Company Men, and just to throw out titles that I do not have contact with, but because I know the titles off the top of my head, I'm going to say them. Say I've got if you're going to overship to 125, why not overship 150?
That's right.
And I have inventory of the Company Men, Charlie's London, the Lucent, Mary Boys. At which point, I go, hello, U.S. comic book retail markets. I have hard to get import crowdfunded comics that you can get for the cost of the comic, shipped in one box.
That's a game changer.
You can pick 2 of this one, 1 of that one, 3 of that one. Here's what the shipping is going to cost. I put it in a box. I pay everybody what they got for their comic, and then I make the money on the shipping. And they got like 5 comics that they only had to ship 1 time, not 5 times. So
you've redefined the model. If it works the way that you think it will, and like you said, there's no reason it won't, that's going to be the new blueprint. That's going to, like you said, people are looking at it saying, why weren't we doing this before? And the fact that you're going to be getting books into comic book stores. I had a video a while ago with the whole thing with Mark Waid and your boy and the lawsuit being dropped. And one of my points in there, without pointing fingers, was it feels like comic book stores are like sour grapes to Comicsgate now. A lot of them are like, I wouldn't be in a comic book store even if they wanted me. I do. I want to be in there. I want to be on every shelf. I want my book in everyone's hand. I'm doing a digital so you can pick it up cheap. I want it out there. I don't see the cutting off my nose to spite my face saying I won't get into a comic book store. I'm going to be driving to local comic book stores and saying, hey, you want this? You want this on the shelf?
Absolutely. Yeah, and you should be, because, not only should it be on your shelf, but you should be saying, hey, what Saturday do you want me in here at a table signing? That you can advertise in advance for, so that your customers will say, hey, I can get a signed comic if I come in on this day.
Greg's plan when he launches Gun Demon is to actually live stream from his local comic book store. He's going to do the whole launch party from that comic book store.
And I know Alterna's, you're right, Alterna's doing something similar there with their own stuff. They're also going to distribute some other people. I was on Peter Samedi's stream talking about this very thing, and Peter's like, why are you not on the, you should be shouting this from the rooftops everywhere, which is, hello, I'm on my roof now, but the crowd is getting bigger around the roof, which is great.
Yeah, that's what you want.
Glad to see that.
Visibility.
But that's the plan, and I definitely look forward to working numbers out with you and finding out where we can take it. I'll be very precise and exact with you, and my rates change because as I find cheaper places to get bags and boards, well, guess what that does? That lowers the cost of the item, and I'm like, here's the spreadsheet. Oh, maybe I shouldn't have shown you that because I just cheated myself out of $2 there. Because I could have just kept it all the same, but I don't want to do that. I ordered this morning, finally placed the order with Amazon for the zebra printer, for the labels, for the postal scale. I am ready to go with this and launch it. So I cannot wait. So Is there anything more about this specific launch? I mean, you've said it's a 3-issue thing, and then you've got some side projects that are related to it. Is there anything else about the Company Men that you've been waiting for somebody to ask you, and I haven't yet? So you haven't really talked about it?
No, that's an excellent question. I can't think of anything off the top of my head. I'll talk about something anyway, but I feel like I've had lots of opportunity to talk about it. And the tone of the book, I think that's the really important thing, so people know what they're getting into. I'd hate for someone to pick this up thinking it's one thing and getting something completely different. Like, I want people to go into it with their eyes open, knowing what they're paying me money for, because you want that repeat customer. And I've talked before in some of my videos about how genre exists for a reason. I had a video the other day, 10 things to keep in mind while you're writing fiction. And it was, you're not going to be able to appeal to everybody. I'm not appealing to the romance crowd with my novels, which are completely different to this, more like hard-boiled PIs in the 70s in the deep South Louisiana. I'm not appealing to the romance crowd. I'm not doing anything to shoo them away, but I'm not going to weight romance more heavily in my book to appeal to them, because there's the chance I'll lose the people who like what I'm already doing. So, you got to stay. I said, in the nicest way possible, I'm trying to say to you, stay in your lane, like for your own benefit, for your own profit, for your own bottom line. I want people to know what they're getting into with Company Men. It is Suicide Squad. It is Homeland. If you ever saw that TV show Homeland, that was very raw. There's some very harsh scenes and experiences in watching that. It's the first season of Jack Ryan. It's Body of Lies with Leonardo DiCaprio and Russell Crowe. Like, it's all that media to do with the Middle East. So if that's sort of thing, like the terrorist plots and the subterfuge and the backstabbing and the spycraft and then superpowers on top of that, big bombastic fights, people fighting at Mach 10, throwing each other through mountains. If all of that sounds like your jam, this is the book you want to be getting in on, because this is the start of a many years long franchise. Aside from the 4 main stories, each one being 3 books of 60 pages each, aside from Company Men Black miniseries, there's also individual spin-off stories for most of these characters. So Abbott has his own story about him traveling across America. It's like a road trip, and trying to find this metahumans arm dealer who wants to get it, because he's the first superhero of his world. He's the Captain America of his world. He was grown in a lab, covered in red, white, and blue, chucked on a plane, sent over to Berlin in 1945. He steps off the plane, boots on the ground, says, "Right, I'm ready to go." And a soldier comes up and says, "Sir, we got news. We just found the Fuhrer. He's dead. He shot himself." And Abbott's like, that's the whole reason I'm here. I was here to kill Hitler on TV. I was here to do it. Like, that's my whole purpose. I'm 5 weeks old. I was grown to kill this guy. I'm a war machine, and now there is no war. So after that, he wandered America. He picked up the mannerisms of the blue collar, the backbone of America, those hardworking people, the Rust Belt people who work in factories all day just to get food on the table. Like, he knows the hardship of America. He's Captain America in his own way, because he's that blue collar part of the country. So he's got his own story. So this is a big franchise. Lots of overlap too. I'm talking to other creators about doing crossovers, because the Company Men Black allows the boss to assemble teams of individual characters. I've talked to Bob Stone about getting his character Dice on there. She's got luck-based powers. I've talked to Comics Kellaway about getting the sheriff on a team. There's a lot of people are really interested, because it's no cost to them. They've just got to loan me the character. I get them put in the book that I'm paying for the art for. We work out some sort of licensing franchisee sort of thing where they get some sort of cut because they're doing me a favor by loaning me the character, but at the same time I'm giving their character exposure. So this is a story that's going to stick around for a while. It's got lots of legs. There's lots of ways I can go with it. I'm coming up with more ideas and more stories every day, and it's all one big story. The stuff that happens in this book will impact in book 4, but you can pick any one of them up individually and enjoy it.
You've got my brain rolling now in directions I don't want to go in, because I'm busy. I don't have time for this. But I'm thinking now, why wouldn't I would love to see somebody write an adventure who is familiar with all of these CG comic book characters and works it out so that it's like, guess what? It's a 12-issue crisis kind of thing. And it starts in the Company Men. And then part 2 is in Cyberfrog. And then part 3 is in Graveyard Shift. And then part 4 is, and just like, this is an ongoing thing here that you've got to go to all these different campaigns and just help each one out. I talked about trading the collectible cards before, but I'd also seen people doing the trading cards. Like, you're doing the trading cards all wrong, people. It's like, if you're giving a whole set of trading cards with a backing, That's not collectible trading cards. There's no chase.
No. And they should be using the same template. They should have been a unified CG template from the beginning with the unified content, unified format. You're going to do power ratings. Okay, everybody adheres to the same power ratings. I pitched this idea like 2 years ago, saying we really need to unify the whole thing, or it's just disparate elements. It's not a set. Like you said, there's no chase, there's no collectability. You're just getting this character and this character. The cards might even be the different size, different format, different glossy covering, different, some are, so, and what you said before about the crisis type story, that's Greg's eventual goal. We are working now on script and art for big Crisis on Infinite Earths, big Thanos invasion type, big Shi'ar invasion type scrolls in the Company Man / Gun Demon / this other guy I can't say, this other guy that this other guy you've heard of that I can't mention that's coming on board. We've got a phase 2, wave 2. We've got big names that you've heard of that are coming on board. And we're making it all happen simultaneously. And there's going to be this big book by book by book. I wish I could tell you that it's got such a great title. I wish I could tell you the title of it. It's so catchy. You hear it and like, how's nobody used that title before? That's such a great name for a big crisis type event. And it goes right back to the days of World War II with Abbott being one of the first metahumans, and stuff that's happened then now comes to fruition in modern times. And you've got big demonic alien type event things happening. It's going to be huge. Greg's got a lot of big plans. I'm on board with the whole thing. He really knows what he's doing. He's getting sculptures made. He's getting the card game made. A lot of this stuff is already 50, 60, 70, 80% done. Like a lot of this stuff is just weeks away from being done in time for my campaign, in time for his campaign. A lot of stuff's been happening behind the scenes. It's killed me not to be able to talk about it.
Good. Somebody's planning. The trading card thing, you're right, though. That should have been all formatted the same. And I'll tell you what, I'll take it a step further. You remember the 1990 Fleer X-Men card? And how you click those, the 3x3 sleeve, and you're like, I got the last one in this sleeve. Look, it's one big action picture of the 9 characters. I was like, why isn't somebody hiring a Kyle Ritter or someone to draw a 3x3 grid of all 9 characters, 9 different creators, and then just selling your trading card with your campaign?
That's money.
Exactly, because it's not just that, hey, yeah, I'm definitely going to, go get Graveyard Shift with this Graveyard Shift trading card. And I'm going to go get the Company Man with the Company Man trading card. It's when you get it and you realize that, oh, there's 7 other cards I've got to get.
Yeah.
Here in these 7 other campaigns, you've just pushed people into 7 other campaigns that they might have ignored.
That's right. It blows my mind that people aren't seeing the bigger picture here. I think everyone, I don't know if there's a mentality of they don't really believe Comicsgate's going to last, so they're scrabbling to get their little piece of pie, their little patch before it all falls apart. I've heard a few people lately talking about, even if Comicsgate doesn't last, I'm going to keep making comics. I've got my little escape pod, my little escape plan. I think that's the wrong mentality. I think if you're already looking for the door, then you think it's going to fail. Let's go all in, both feet. I mean, it's only money.
Well, I think the issue is that it's still forming, and I've made the correlation many times that if DC and Marvel were the Catholic Church, then your boy Zach and Captain Cummings was Martin Luther nailing the Declaration.
Yes,
and it's just splintered and splintered and splintered since then, in all these different Protestant denominations. But the fact is, you can't get 9 different creators to get along with each other long enough to get all 9 projects done. Because you start out best friends, and the next thing you know, you're arch enemies firing shots at each other on Twitter.
You're right, but something I've noticed, because I buy anything that's digital, as long as it's not exorbitant. Some people's digital copies cost as much as the physical ones. I can't do that. I'm not paying you $30 for a digital book. Pretty much anything that's digital that's a high enough quality, I'll back. Sometimes even stuff that's not high quality, because then I've got something to roast on my reviews. I'm fair, but I'm fair. In the indie comic scene, somewhere between zines and Comicsgate, there's guys like Matt Krotz, like the guy he does Kyrie. There's guys like Mueller who does Demon Hunter Raven. There's guys like Tonic Mole who do Saving the World. There's 6 Scale Combats in the chat right now. He did Napalm Brothers. Napalm Brothers is one of my top 10 books of 2020. It's sexy blaxploitation, post-Nam era US blues. It's grungy, it's grimy. It's Robert Crumb on Viagra is snorting coke. It's fantastic. It's so good.
Fun.
It is so good. I love it. Napalm Brothers. Check it out if you get a chance. I'm sure 6 Scale will be happy to send you a digital copy. I'm sure he's got physical copies if you want to hit him up. He's a really top bloke. These guys seem, because they don't have the I don't know what it is about Comicsgate, but these guys just seem to get along. They're doing their own thing. There's dozens of them. They make, I mean, higher up, you've got sort of Rags and Tim Lim and guys like that making those books on the top end. Like EVS is maybe above guys like myself and Dean and other blokes. These guys are above them. There's this smaller contingent of just these grinders, these really hard workers. Tonic Mole's put out 3 books in a year just for saving the world, plus his other 2 IPs he's got.
And 2 of them are in our nominations for best comic of 2020. So
yeah, and I've got reviews on my channel. If you're not sure, go check out Save the World by Tonic Mole on my channel if you want to get an idea of what sort of book that is. Like he's a grinder. He's a hard worker. He keeps the drama out of Twitter. He's fairly politically neutral. I don't think my politics should matter. I don't think you should care how I vote, and I'm not going to tell you about it because it's none of your business and you don't want to bloody know.
Exactly.
So I think I could get some of these guys like Tonic Mole, like Kyrie, like Matt Crotts, like Demon Hunter Raver, and maybe do some of that with some of my characters. Someone like Dean and Comics Killaway, that are my friends in Comics Mate. We've got a little sub-splinter called Comics Mate because we're all Australians. It's just a fun thing. It doesn't mean that we're removed from Comicsgate, but it just means that we're the Aussies within Comicsgate. I'm sure I could get Michael Bancroft from the Lucent, and just these people that are politically neutral, ideologically neutral. They're the second wave of Comicsgate. They're just here to make good books. When people go off, when the anti start saying, "Oh, all Comicsgate people do this," guys like Michael, guys like me, guys like Dean, we look at them, we just go, "Get back to work." You shake your head because I don't get anything. I'm not selling a book to him. If I say, "How dare you? I'm Comicsgate and I'm not like this and I don't do this thing," here's my being the exception to the rule. That's not selling a book to that guy. I said to him, "Do you want to buy my book?" "No, you're Comicsgate. Have a nice life." Who wants to buy my book? Who wants to see more about my book? I don't understand the fight, I reckon I could find 8 other creators today that would be willing to go in on a non-card thing. And I got some artists that have worked for me that I've done paid work for commissions. I could hit them up and say, "Hey, you're free to do exactly what you said." I reckon I could have one of those put together by the end of the week. It's about who you pick. Yeah.
Take it and go. I would just like to see it happen. So it's a renaissance. It's comic books are dying. Comic books are in a renaissance.
Comics are dead. Long live comics.
Yeah, exactly. It's exactly what it is. I'm all for DC and Marvel dying. I will miss them terribly. I will cherish the memories I've had with them. But again, one of the analogies I've had is like, you've had a tiny village of everyone living on the edge of this grove of 2 giant trees, casting its shadow over everything. And one day, one of the trees just falls over and takes the other one out with it. And they're like, "Oh, disaster!" And the whole village comes out, and the sun comes up, and they're like, "Oh, look, there's an entire orchard of trees here that we never saw before because we couldn't get past the 2 big trees."
That's perfect. That is the most concise, pure way I've heard it described. And visually, it's really nice too.
So it should be a comic. Somebody just draw me 1 big page PDF of the story of the trees, and I will be eternally in your debt. Kemosabe, we've gone over the time that we normally allot. We're not FCC regulated. We can talk as long as we want. But I try to keep it down to an hour because you have a comic book to do, and the more you're on streams with me, the less time you're spending doing your comic. So we're going to watch for that launch to come in. This looks like one hell of a good book. I hope you have resounding success with it. I hope it's not one of those things that you spend thousands of dollars on to end up spending only hundreds of dollars on.
Yeah, that's the worry. But I got to take a shot, and even though New Pub has done away with the way traditional publishing works and you're able to get your book out there on Amazon, your novels and that sort of stuff, it's such a glutted market. To get seen is almost impossible. You've got to really play the algorithms and that. And you hear stories of people buying their own books just to get up in the rankings so they're seen, so they can sell their own books. Sure. I'd rather do it this way. I put out a comic, people go, "Hey, that was a great comic. I really like that. What else have you got? What else do you do?" Well, I do some review videos. I do some streams. But more importantly, here's 6 novels of this series of this mixed race PI bloke down in New Orleans in the 70s dealing with supernatural undertones. Like each book's 300,000 words. That's a lot of reading, for a couple of bucks because it's Amazon and it's digital.
Yeah, get
in on that too. Absolutely. So hopefully people will make the jump across back and forward constantly as I continue to put out product.
All right. Well, Kemosabe, Lee Byron Carver, Thank you for coming on the show tonight. Folks in the chat, definitely go at Lee Byron Carver on Twitter to follow Kemosabe and sign up on the Indiegogo below so that you get your newsletter when he launches. You do not want to miss out on this one. This is going to be one people are talking about when it does launch.
I think so.
So get in on that. Thank you for coming by and watching.
Thanks for having me.
We don't have a show without you guys, without our guests or without our viewers. So it would just be me in here talking to the computer, and I might have to turn it on. I'd still do it because I'm kind of nutty that way. But people look at me funny when I do that. But I'm used to it. So. All right. With that, we're going to end the stream. Thank you, everybody, for coming, and we will be back. It's not in the stream yet because I would like to at least show a couple of graphics here. We will be back tomorrow, Wednesday, with Roland Mann, who does the Switchblade portion of the Silverline books. And then Thursday will be a big night also. We will be having Preston Acevedo here to talk about Doc Salem. Friday nights will be Outlaw Nights with Ben Fusilier. And then Saturday will be R.J. Shaw with Thomas Valiant. That's another one that is looking really, really good. And I do believe Saturday is going to be a doubleheader with Alejandro and the Columns of Creation, which is going to be great to see. Finally, finishing up with Tribulation Workforce. And I say finishing up, that's on Monday night. Sunday I skipped, but we don't have the graphic up yet. We will be talking with Mark Polton and Clint Helinski about their new book. So busy, busy, busy. We are going to be here every night for the next 7 days. So be sure to set your alarms. If you haven't, I got to say that, don't I? Subscribe, hit the bell for notifications when we do our thing. Appreciate it, all of you. Thank you for coming. And now I will say good night.